We're now joined live via Zoom from Florida by Eric Mendel, the founder and director of Middle East Political Information Network and the senior editor for security at the Jerusalem Report. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, Emily. Nice to be here with you.
So much to talk about. We know that the prime minister on his way. I think many people shocked about these tariffs, 17%. That's quite a high number considering how much so many people here in Israel rely on American goods, consumers, whatnot. So is that going to be at the top of the agenda, you believe?
First of all, I think Israelis both, I know people in Israel feel very strongly one way or the other about Bibi Netanyahu, but I don't think you could have a better prime minister regarding the tariffs speaking to Trump. They have a very long and close relationship. Bibi and Trump go back a long way. Bibi also knows finance. I mean, Bibi was at the MIT Sloan Management School, studied at Harvard, was at the Boston Consulting Group. When he was finance minister, he made a turnaround, turning Israel, moving them from an emerging market to a first-tier economic market. And so the close relationship, being the first leader to come after tariffs, and also, he was the first leader in February when the infamous Gaza Riviera line came, is incredibly important. But also, as the report talked about, is the tariffs the only thing we're talking about? And the answer is no. Because right now, the latest coming from Iran is that they will not have direct talks with the Americans, and maybe even indirect talks, unless America lifts all the sanctions. So Iran will be there front and center. Turkey, that's a much more complex relationship because of them being a big part of NATO and Turkey wanting to be in Syria, the hostages. And what comes out of all of this is Trump has leverage on Bibi, but at least regarding the tariffs, Bibi is the best person to be positioned to undo some of the tariffs. It won't be total. It'll be partial.
Well, I mean, you look at, I know the minimum on countries was 10%, the 10% on islands and places we've never heard of. But, you know, looking at the numbers of the other countries with 10% tariffs, we've got Egypt, Iran, UK, Brazil, Singapore, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Yemen. Now, granted, not these countries all trade with the U.S., but it also you know, makes you scratch your head as we're in the middle of a war and, you know, the economy here in Israel is tough for all of us that have to live here and feed our children.
Right. I mean, one of the things that has to be taken into consideration is that Israel's economy certainly, even though it's remarkable that it's still in a positive way, is still so much less than what it would have been if you weren't in 18 months of war. And it is a fragile economy. And it gets to where the tariffs are and how they were calculated. So Israel has had since, I think it's 1985, 99% tariff-free on U.S. imports. So where did all these numbers come up from the United States? It's all regarding the trade deficit. It's not about Israel having tariffs. And then Israel quickly cut any customs duties. So there really isn't anything going on, but there is a trade deficit, and that just happens in normal capitalist economics. The real questions here are what it can be negotiated down to. The hope is 10% from the Israeli point of view, and that may happen. Again, who knows what the ask will be from President Trump. It's also regarding the tech sector. The tech sector is mainly a service industry. And if services are going to be tariffed, that's going to be a real killer for Israel. If we're talking about things like machinery, that's going to probably remain with the tariff. But it's the tech sector that people are particularly worried about. And if things related to software services are going to be imposed with the tariff. If not, it will mitigate much of the harm to Israel. But listen, being a fragile economy in a war, you know, any tariffs are going to be difficult. But Israel also has other alternatives, and it may not have any choice. It has a free trade agreement with the Europeans. It may be forced to have closer economic ties with China and Asia, only because if tariffs remain high on all of its services, and that could put a strain on U.S.-Israel relations.
For sure. I mean, we also see here in Israel, I mean, Israelis love to buy American things, cars, whatnot. I mean, that's going to affect also everything all around. I mean, we know we're seeing what's happening in the States. Cars also already expensive here, you know, but also, you know, noteworthy that people here really like having American products.
Well, liking having American products, and if they become too expensive with an economy that's weak, Israelis will, walk with their feet away from buying American goods, even if they like them, if they just become, too expensive. And that's just not even becoming too expensive, that the Israel economy goes down because of the tariffs, and they have less disposable income to buy an iPhone or a Mac Air. So Israelis are going to make economic decisions based upon what happens to the Israeli economy, and that's up to, at this point of time, one is the U.S.-Israel relationship and the economics of it, but there's the worldwide impact of what's going on. You look at what's happening, the whole world is in chaos regarding economics. You saw what happened in the stock market for 2 days, and how quickly can new trade relations be made with other countries that will soothe the subjective nature of stock markets, which really take this stuff not just purely objectively, but subjectively. And maybe in the long run, it could be, I'm not an economist, it could be good, but in the short run, it seems like it could have been handled much better for American interests and for the whole worldwide economy.
All right. Thank you very much, as always. Eric Mandel, founder and director, Middle East Political Information Network, senior editor at the Jerusalem Report. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.